There we go. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to the public board meeting. And I'm going to call this meeting to order. Before we go on with the business, though, I would like to acknowledge that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and St'át'imc nations. I would accept a recommendation that the agenda of this meeting be approved. There's one additional item that has just been added related to the bylaw that we gave. I think the one we gave first reading to earlier today. Is that right, Archie? Yep, thank you.
And the budget bylaw.
And the budget bylaw. Okay, thanks a lot, Danielle. So someone prepared to make that motion for the agenda?
That the amended agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you. Seconder for that one?
Ian.
Thank you, Ian. And any discussion on the agenda? In that case, is there anybody opposed to the adoption of the agenda? Okay, hearing none, that's carried. And we have a couple of sets of minutes to adopt before we proceed further.
That the minutes of the board meeting held on January 12th, 2022 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder for that one.
Second.
Thank you, Ian. Any discussion on those minutes? Anyone opposed to their adoption? Okay, that's carried. And one more set of minutes.
That the summary minutes of the in-camera board meeting held on January 12th, 2022 be adopted.
Thank you very much. Seconder for that one.
Second.
Thanks, Ian. Any discussion on those summary minutes? And any objection to adopting those minutes? Okay, that's carried. Under the heading of chairperson's remarks, I will just make a note that those of you who follow these meetings closely will know that I'm not actually the elected chair of the board. However, the chair of the board, Rebecca Barley, is unavailable. The vice chair, Cynthia Higgins, is unavailable and actually in Germany as we speak. And the board has asked me to chair this evening's meetings, and I'm very happy to do so. Thank you. Those are my remarks. Moving down to any trustee remarks. Okay, hearing none, superintendent's remarks.
Yes, thank you, Rick. I do have 4 items to share, all linked by our collective ideals of equity, inclusion, and diversity. So bear with me, they're rather long, but rather important. So at the last board meeting, I drew everyone's attention to January 14th as that inaugural Black Excellence Day as a lead up to Black History Month. So we are now in February, which is Black History Month. And I just encourage folks to check out the link on our website for more information and resources to learn more and to help honor and reflect on the achievements of Black Canadians and their communities. Secondly, January 21st was our District Implementation Day. And I am so pleased and honored to share that all SD48 staff engaged in an important day of learning and team building around issues of equity through the lens of Indigenous perspectives and ways of knowing and learning. One highlight was that across the district, our staff participated in Monique Grace Smith's online course, The Ripple Effect of Resiliency. And we know more than ever of that importance. We thank Monique Grace Smith for sharing her excellent, impactful, and necessary work with us. Third, I want to point out that 2 Wednesdays from now, the February 23rd, is National Anti-Bullying Day, also known as Pink Shirt Day. And I'd like to invite everyone to consider wearing pink that day to symbolize our collective stand against bullying. And last but not least, and speaking of someone who's helped us along our journey of inclusion, diversity, and equity, I do want to congratulate Colleen Deverick, principal of St'át'imc Elementary School, on her imminent move to a principalship in Gold Trail. I sincerely want to thank her for her tremendous work at St'át'imc over the past 2 years, and all the best to her and her family on the next adventure. she will be missed. So thank you very much. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. And certainly I would add the board's best wishes to Colleen as she moves on to a new job. Secretary Treasurer's remarks.
Thanks, Rick. I just want to let the public know that if there's any questions of clarification for any of the agenda items today, they're welcome to email the shared board email address, which is board@sd48.bc.ca. And the board will attempt to answer all questions during the conclusion of the public board meeting. And however, if there are any questions that are complex and take a bit more time for us to come up with an answer, we will reach out to you after the board meeting with a response. So that's all my comments. Thank you.
Good. Thanks very much for clarifying that. That takes us down to our delegation and our guest this evening. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome Chief Nelson. And Chief Nelson is here to tell us more about a proposed healing center that could take place at the Coast Mountain Outdoor School property. And with that brief and probably inadequate introduction, I'm happy to turn the floor over to Chief Nelson, unless there are any staff of our staff who have additional words to say before we start. Looked like it's all yours, Chief Nelson.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good evening. Political Chief Dean Nelson, Lillooet. A very important presentation. It's just a reiteration of what I shared previous, but nonetheless important. On the first slide, I just chose a picture from the area that I thought this one we rarely see, and this year we actually brought students to this place. And it was very significant that, potentially we arrive at some place where they are free from, from the Indian Act, from the reservation and everything else that, that pertains to this, our lives right now. So that was the reason for this picture. It was very significant at the time when we started the talks of, just being on the land and, having a place away from the reservation. So that's significant right now. So, there's my brief introduction and about sharing the proposed lands and the properties and what's all included in the details of the place that we're pursuing. I just wanted to reflect that there is a village site right on this property that we've never acknowledged before. That it was out of bounds kind of to us, and there's significant other places in the area that we've never really visited or yes, we're really looking forward to reconnecting and with the ancestors and with the land there. So the urgency for this land is imminent. Right now we're going through the wheel of dysfunction, and it's just forever turning, under the Indian Act and, being on the reservation and being the under programs that are, they're just programs meant to they just don't serve the purposes. Like there's always a shortfall from what it's intended for. So, and we've been through this now, since contact, and we're really, when we want to be our own savior type. So I think that part is coming with partnerships that we are, and the values that we share now about reconciliation days and, reflection of truth and reconciliation. So, yeah, families, we continue to struggle with everything on the reserve. Like it's a place that not too many people know about it. Maybe they hear about it, but you think it's exaggerated, but it's real and it's true. That we're stuck in this harmful cycle. Now we continuously think about our youth, our students here, public schools, and maybe they've shared some of the concerns, about everything that happens in their lives, and yeah. So we're really looking forward to having a place to start, begin a new path, I guess, away from this the reservation as it sits right now. And here is a snapshot of the properties, and I guess it's all important, but for the reliance piece, and we were really asking for the agriculture piece to be our revenue for just to build upon. There is some infrastructure there. I mean, it's there, but it's not an extensive thing. So that was the real intention, was just to be on the land here, and having different things happen here away from the reserve. There's cabins there. There's a place for students. There's it's just a place that I really feel that we need to be, and it serves all the purposes for a present. I don't want to say program, but just for an event or events, a place for healing and wellness as it is. It's just it'll be a self-sustaining with agriculture aspects, and we hope to begin as soon as possible. So. We look to enhance both agriculture, I mean, enhance meaning that right now it would be just the hay fields and harvesting hay, but there's still the infrastructure of the barns and different buildings there that we utilize to begin again, with the building of the local economy there, I guess, if you will, the farm, and to refurbish the buildings and build new ones, because I did think that the buildings there were very well thought of in different areas. Educational building, and then there's the cabins, and then there's the farmlands with the farm infrastructure and such. So yeah, it's like as it is, it's very accommodating just having the lands there and having the, but yeah, the second phase would be to enhance it a little. Is the vision is basically just what I said was required improvements for a foundation of healing and a treatment away from the reserve. And again, that the major thing would be the healing and treatment center there that might or might not get approved, but and like I stated earlier, it was it is not something that is needed presently. It's basically the land and having the opportunity to be active out there away from the reservation life. So I put in statistics and I say that I'm happy that I was not included in those statistics, of residential school, of youth, perishing under a certain age, like a young male. So the statistics are, the mortality rate of men and boys, or so I put this in just to keep it in perspective of what's there in our history. And yeah, I didn't really mean to get too far into that, but just a snapshot of life. And again, I included the buildings. There is so much here that can be utilized presently, and like right now with very few improvements. And I think it's a great opportunity to have. And we've had camps. We've asked for permission to have youth camps here. They're just short things, but it was introducing students to opportunities away from the reservation, and especially hard winters like this past winter where we couldn't get to our youth camps and other places. And yeah, it's just a great, amazing place to be. And the youth and the students think that as well, that they'd be happy to return and take part in anything that happens there. And again, stated short-term goal, using agricultural lands to generate revenue to maintain and rebuild basic infrastructure. The hay sales will be the basic foundation. And again, to have visits with counseling and clients, small groups in the cabins and in the educational building. And we haven't really thought too much past that as far as any extended opportunities, but working with what is there and the enhanced secondary parts, I guess. Long term again would be cultural and education programs, building rebuilding the Ishkin, the pit houses that are there on the lands, carving a dugout, doing food harvesting, sharing the history from the lands and songs and dances, their origination, and that is very rich. And we look forward to again connecting with the land and the ancestors on that lands there. and looking to the calls of action, the Truth and Reconciliation, that requires political will, joint leadership, trust building, accountability, and transparency, as well as substantial investment of resources. And that's basically what is there. Just a reminder on that day, there's a day of reconciliation, and we reflect, we take the time to ask ourselves what the truth is on what has happened. What has happened for us to be looking at these days and those words, and remembering that the residential school truth came out and brought a lot of truth to other things, and what is needed. Trust is probably one of the main ones. So, just a reminder on that reconciliation word. It's imperative to recognize what has taken place in our lives up to this point. We must also recognize the opportunities that are available to us, if acted upon, would contribute to positive changes going forward. And the real message is that the healing and separation from the destructive institutions at utmost. We need to be grounded on our lands, away from the reservation. We need a place that is safe and healthy to undo the damage that has been done. We need to replenish the spirit. There has been no greater opportunity than what presents itself today. To be whole, the Lil'wat need to be reacquainted to the lands and the ancestors on the lands to begin to address the traumatic history of Lil'wat and all First Nations. Amawilk, we are getting better of all traumas inherited with New Healing and Treatment Center. So and the final slide is, again, just reminding us of our opportunity and, the parts that we play and what we can do to bring positive change, to our lives and to the lives around us. So thank you again for listening, and, hope we come, bring this to reality, and where we can share and celebrate, a new day on, where we do become really invested in the healing that has to be done to, between our people. So I thank you again for your time, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Nelson, for this presentation and for taking the time to be with us. If any of our trustees have any questions for you, are you okay with being asked a couple of questions?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, okay. Just open the floor for any questions from trustees. Perhaps our staff could just, and partly for the public's sake that are watching, just very briefly summarize where we are in the process of getting this land transferred over to Chief Nelson's people.
Yeah, I can speak on, Ian, you can jump in if I'm missing anything. So we are meeting with Chief Dean Nelson and his team quite frequently. I think we're actually pretty far along into this, so it's really good. Right now we're working on a letter of intent that we're trying to get, basically an agreement between the two organizations saying that our intent is to transfer the lands over, and we're agreeing on the same premises. So we have that we're in the process of creating together. And Yeah, and then I think we're also working with the ministry to see on what we need to dispose of the lands. So yeah, I don't know if I missed anything, Ian, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, no, I think that you've covered everything, Danielle. And if I could add anything further, I think recently we've made quite a bit of progress on this. And like you were saying, we're working on on completing the letter of intent, which just details the process that we're going through to actually facilitate the transfer at the end of the day. And I have a feeling that we're very close. And we're also, as you say, we're working with the Ministry of Indigenous Reconciliation and Relations and Reconciliation, MIR, and we're also working with the Ministry of Education for updating a disposition of the property. So we've got a number of pieces in place, and it will continue to work, and the ultimate goal is to have the transfer occur as a result of all this work. I think it's been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And also just for the sake of the public, because I think trustees are aware of this, but the process that is being undertaken now is simply the mechanics of getting the land transferred. The intention of the board to do that and to make that happen has been clear for some time now. And basically from the moment we heard the proposal, we've been on board with this idea. This land was acquired by the school district almost 50 years ago for an outdoor school, which it ran quite actively for about 25 years. And the kind of economics of that became impossible to sustain. And since then, the land and the improvements on the land that Chief Nelson were describing have been maintained, but not very heavily used at all. And so really, it's delightful to think that such a positive use can be put to that property, which has been underutilized, and we're grateful for the opportunity to do that. And I want to conclude by thanking Chief Nelson on behalf of all of us for the presentation, but just also for reminding us again of the challenging realities that are facing your people. And we'll be very grateful if this land can become a resource for healing and growth. So thanks for attending our meeting. And if there's any last comments from anybody, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Rick, if I may, I just want to, again, thank you for being the historian. And I recall coming here 4 years ago, that this had been talked about. I know it had been approved at an earlier board meeting. So I just, again, want to extend my thank you to Chief Nelson. I raise my hands, and Kuchtum Cow. For your teaching, and I'm so excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, also thank you for the opportunity as well. So,
okay, folks, with that concluded, and thanks again, Chief Nelson, we'll move down the agenda.
All right, thank you again. All
right, you're welcome to stay, and we'll very much understand if you don't. So, folks, that was item 4. We have no student staff presentations this month. Are there any trustee items for the public meeting? Okay, in that case, we'll go down to board committees. Committee of the whole. I suppose that's my job to make that report. So the committee of the whole meeting was held earlier this afternoon. Basically, we discussed a number of calendar items and some changes to school visits that have been occasioned by COVID. And if someone wants to remind me of anything else significant that we did at the committee of the whole meeting, I'm happy to include it in the report.
I'll make the recommendation for you, Rick.
Thank
That
you very much.
The committee of the whole meeting held on January 12th, 2022 be accepted.
Great, thank
And I
you.
will second that.
Okay, and is there any discussion on that? And are there any objections to passing that motion? Okay, that's passed. And the policy committee also met today. The policy chair is here. That's Rachel Lythe. Rachel, did you want to give a brief report?
Yeah, so we're basically just in the process of reviewing policies 201 to 206 right now, and making some changes to make those policies more clear. They're still on the table for review. We need to have a bit more of a full board discussion on most of those. And then we did bring bylaw 200.2 procedures for governing school board meetings out for the first reading. And that's coming up later on the agenda as a motion here. And that's about it for that.
Okay.
And there is a recommendation here that the minutes of the policy committee meeting held on January 12th, 2022 be accepted. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Someone second that motion? Thank you, Ian. I saw Ian's wave. And so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, is there anybody objecting to the adoption of that motion? Okay, that's carried. And moving down, the next is the Finance Committee, which also met today, and I will give a brief report on that. We received a quarterly finance report. We discussed a number of aspects of the upcoming partner group meeting to receive from the partner group budget development or budget advice. We received a report on the amended annual budget and bylaw, including a budget summary and some infographics to illustrate budget details, and that concluded that meeting. So if someone could make the motion to accept the minutes of the December 8th.
It was done in January, Rick.
Oh, was it? Thank you. So I see. That takes us down to Indigenous Education Council. Is there anything to report from Indigenous Education Council?
No, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, and Rebecca is not here. So unfortunately, no. But I
Okay,
can,
I wonder if there's anything from staff on that topic?
maybe.
Not at this time.
Nope. Okay, that's great. We'll receive a report, I'm sure, at the next meeting. Thank you. And the Early Learning Committee, our representative there is Cynthia, I believe, and she's not available. Is there anything from staff on that committee?
There was a recommendation there, Rick, for Indigenous education.
Oh, so there is. Thanks for not letting me skip over that.
And then you skipped over public relations as well. But getting back to that. So there's a recommendation there that the minutes of the Indigenous Education Council meeting held on November 26th, 2021 be adopted.
Great. Thanks for making that motion. Seconder. Thanks, Ian. Any discussion? Any objections? Okay, that's carried. And you're right. I went down to early learning instead of public relations. And I think Cynthia is actually on the public relations, right? And so she's not here for that. Is there anything from staff on public relations?
Yeah, I'll just speak to the fact that, of course, so many things have been going on that have been in the public sphere that I've been speaking to that I'll speak to in terms of COVID. Sorry, it sort of dominated the public conversation, but we just decided that just focusing on that communication and reminding folks again to check our website and school websites for the most up-to-date information that we have. And a gentle reminder to folks out there, if they haven't yet, please consider downloading, if you have a smart device, the school messenger app, where you will get the most up-to-date information about your school and the district as soon as it's available. Thank you.
Great. Okay, the one I tried to do a couple of minutes ago unsuccessfully, Early Learning Committee. Is there a report on that? Hearing none and hearing no reaction to that, we will defer that to the next meeting and move on. So we have no business arising under the heading of number 8, general, but we do have a number of information items, starting with the COVID-19 update. Mr. Nicholson.
All right, thank you very much. So as last month, really pleased to share that this month as well, we've had no functional school closures. And again, I never tire of saying this, I want to thank all of our staff and students, and of course the parents that support them, for doing their part, keeping everybody safe by washing their hands, wearing their masks if they can, and staying home when sick. So let's keep that record of no school closure at 100%. That's fantastic. Thanks, folks. Second thing on COVID, has been in the media as well. Last week, close to 1,000 rapid antigen tests were delivered to our school board office from the Ministry of Education. That was for distribution to all SD48, independent school, and CSS staff as part of a district-wide initiative to supply folks in the sector with 2 rapid tests each for use at their discretion. And I just want to thank all the staff who were in the school board office that afternoon, who rallied to set up quite the assembly line of dismantling boxes of 5 tests to put into individualized sets of 2 to ensure that all schools were able to receive boxed sets for all of their staff. And over the course of a few hours, the work was done well past the dinner hour, I will point out. So thanks again for staying late. And by the next day, all those kits were out to schools. So again, big thank you to the school board staff for doing that work. And as folks have probably heard in the media, rapid tests for students are also in the works. We've been provided no definite timelines of when we're going to receive them. We know it's a phased approach, and we're considered Metro will be in the last phase. And when we do have more information, of course, we will share that out and work out how best to get those into the hands of those students and families that would like them. So more to come. Please be patient. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris on his update? All right, we'll move down to item B, school alignment meetings. Danielle Haverstock.
Thanks, Rick. So this is an information item for the public. We're going to be starting school alignment meetings. They start actually tomorrow, February 6th. February 10th. And they go all the way until April 7th. And so what these are they are meetings with school board staff, where they're meeting with principals and vice principals at each school, or of each school. We have separate meetings for individual schools. And this is an important step in the budget process for the next school year, for the 2022-23 school year. So it's important for us to have these meetings every year. We use this time to make sure that each school is aligned with the education plan and ministry initiatives. We also use this time to look at capital priorities and any other budget needs. This is used so that we can get all the information ready for the budget. So we need all this information for the budget bylaw, and And the budget bylaw needs to be passed in June. So we have all this prep work that we have to do with all the schools to make sure that we have all of the information required to prepare the budget. So it's just one piece of the process. So yeah, it's just, I just wanted to let the public know that we have that piece of work occurring in the next few months.
Thank you. And are there any questions from trustees for Danielle or any other staff on the school alignment meetings? All right, let's go down to the framework for enhancing student learning, sometimes known as FESL. And that would be Paul and or Chris.
Okay, I can jump right in. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to lead with, or you're good?
Not at all. You take it away, sir.
Okay. All right, so just before I get into the data, and I am going to share some data with the board over the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. I just want to give you a little bit of a context. So as you recall, we submitted a FESL report back in September, which outlined, well, it highlighted certain data points in our school district, and it also outlined our sort of intentions for this year in terms of our educational plan and priorities for the year. Last year, with the board in the spring, we presented data in sort of 3 phases. We started in April with sort of a here's what and presented some data. Then we followed up with so what, where we discussed the data and did a bit of an analysis. And then finally, now what, in June, I believe, in terms of what our next steps were. So we, tonight, we're just going to start with some of the data, not all of it, because not all of it is available to us yet. So we're just going to share some updates that we've had with the latest data, and we'll go from there. So I'm just going to start by sharing the screen. Okay. Can everyone see a page with some light blue and dark blue tiles? Okay. So I'm just going to start with this site, and just to remind the board about this site, it is a Ministry of Education site called Student Success. And you can search for public data on all school districts, including ours. And these are the available reports. So we have school district information, intellectual development, which includes these 4 areas: completion rates, FSA, grad assessments, etc. And then there's a little bit here on some of the student surveys, such as the student learning survey, the provincial student learning survey, and then some career development data as well. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things from this site. First of all, it's really well done in terms of providing the information visually. It gives you a really good sense of the data. It doesn't necessarily show it historically on this site, but I know you've seen this before, but this is our latest completion rate. Let me just verify here. Right, so this is the 5-year completion rate. Sometimes we look at the 6-year completion rate, which tends to be a little bit higher. So the dot represents where we are. The orange line, sorry, the dot represents where we are with our latest data. The orange line represents the range our district has seen in the last 5 years. So that gives you a sense of where we're at in terms of our own performance as a district. Then the gray bar represents the range of the entire province for the last 5 years. So we can see that our latest 5-year completion rate data is still looking positive in terms of our performance as compared to the province as a whole. There are still some gaps between different groups of students, which always concerns us and remains some of our most important work as a district to address that. I'm going to move from that slide to another slide. Now this has some questions from the student learning survey. Just again, it's presented similarly, and you can see, you know, it's kind of all over the place here. This first question, do you feel welcome at your school? In some cases, we're well below the province. In some cases, we're kind of sort of average with the province. I won't go through and read all of the different questions for you. You can kind of get a sense. So this is, do you feel welcome at school? The next group is, are you satisfied with what you're learning? That are you learning to stay healthy, etc. So I'm just pointing this out as a helpful place to go to just look and see how things are looking and what is publicly available on the ministry website. Now I'm going to go back to our school district page, and you should all be familiar with this, and just review a little bit of data that we have here and just let you know about a little bit of a change. So again, this is what we just saw on the ministry website. This is how we have displayed it on our website. So this is the 5-year completion rate. We show the 5-year trend. The current year is compared against the current provincial average. And we use a little bit of a color system just to show, just for comparison purposes. So, and we've changed that a little bit since the last time you've looked at it. So if we are at or above the provincial average, we use green. If we are within 10% of the provincial average, we're using orange. And then if we are below 10% of the province, we're using red, just to sort of help us to, at a glance, get a sense of what things are looking like. So I'll continue to scroll down here, or to move through the data set. So here's our learned data. And what I'd like to do is start with the FSA and just point this out, because this is quite interesting. This wasn't in our data set last year, but I thought it would be good to add it just for some context. Now, a little bit later, you'll see that some of our FSA results are quite concerning. This provides a little bit of context. It doesn't make it okay, but it provides a little bit of a context. So as a district, our participation rates for the FSA is quite good compared to the rest of the province. So you can see historically we've had sort of 80s and 90% participation compared to 60s at the provincial level. Now, for students of Indigenous ancestry, I'm not sure why this took a bit of a dip last year, down to 69%, but you can see how historically it's been equally as strong or fairly close in terms of, you know, a strong participation rate. So when you have a really strong participation rate, it just says a bit more about your results. So it creates questions about the provincial results when they're so low. So I just wanted to provide that context for you all, because I suppose you could hypothesize that if the provincial participation rate was as strong as ours, we might not see as the same kind of results provincially. So it is, again, it's, I don't want to overemphasize that piece, but I think it was important just to acknowledge that our participation rates are quite strong. And that has been acknowledged by the ministry as well. They've commended us for that. So we're going to start here, and some positive trends for grade 4 reading are showing some good gains over last year, or over the previous 2019-2020 results with our grade 4 reading. We have one result for students with diverse needs that is a concern, but still represents an improvement from 1920. And I'm just going to keep scrolling through. And just to let you know in advance, our numeracy results are not quite as positive as that. This is grade 7 reading. There's an error there that should not be green, that should be orange, still slightly below the provincial level. And a very concerning result here for our students of Indigenous ancestry and students with diverse needs in the 40s. And this is a significant drop from the previous year. So we're not sure what happened there, but it's concerning. And certainly staff are working to look into that. Keep scrolling through. Some of the data we don't have yet there. Okay, and this data set here is survey data. We've asked students about how they feel about reading. Do you feel like you're getting better at reading? And interestingly enough, we show quite strong results in grade 4, but then not quite as strong as students are the older grades. So interestingly, the survey seems to kind of match the actual academic result of the FSA, which is interesting. And you can see how we've changed to use this orange, which gives us a little bit more of a context. So that again signifies that it's within 10% of the provincial average there. Okay, I'll keep going. So we go into writing just quickly. Our grade 4 results are actually both grade 4 and grade 7 results are positive when compared to the provincial result. Even though there's a green there for students of Indigenous ancestry, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a great result. It just simply means that it's higher than the province, and certainly we don't feel that 58% is a positive result at all. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to back up here. I'm sorry, I misread this. So this is brand new. We just added this. So this is actually our participation rates. My apologies. That's our participation rate for the FSA. That's not the actual academic outcome or the performance outcome. The next piece is the performance. So it is actually a concerning result in writing. You can see there. And same story for grade 7. And again, we have the survey asking students how they feel about their writing. Interestingly, similar results from the reading, with grade 4 seemingly feeling a little bit more positive than students who are a bit older. So I'm going to continue on here. I know this is a lot of data, a lot of scrolling, so I apologize for that. I just want to give you kind of some of the key points. Then we get into numeracy. So we don't have the participation rates up for numeracy, but the results are concerning. These are grade 4 numeracy results. They're a little bit closer to provincial averages, which isn't too worrying, but still, this 53% is a big concern, and we are working to improve that. Oh, there's the participation rate. Okay, it's just in a different place. And then here's our grade 7 result, and this is one of our most concerning results. As you can see, 30% students of Indigenous ancestry, 28 students with diverse needs. Highly concerning and upsetting results. Provincially, the results aren't great either, as you can see. So there are a number of things that I hadn't planned to get into this evening around what we are doing as a district for numeracy. And I'm not going to get into it, but there are a number of strategies that we are working towards, and we'll talk about that at an upcoming meeting more specifically. Okay, this is the grade 10 numeracy provincial assessment. Here are our results, our latest results, and you can see again, even provincially, the results are fairly low. So our Indigenous students of Indigenous ancestry have exceeded the provincial average, but still at 22%, it's just not, it's not okay. All students are fairly close at 37. And here is the survey results for, do you feel as a student you are improving at numeracy? And these are the results. Again, it's really interesting to see that pattern with the grade 4s having a more positive reaction to that particular question. Okay, now these results here, these are more survey questions. This is more sort of personal responsibility, health and well-being. Am I learning to care for my mental health? You can have a quick scan, what this looks like, our 2020-21 results. Physical health. Students are asked, do you feel that your effort at school is positive? Are you putting in a positive effort? That's the question, and this is the 71% positive response to that question. For students of Indigenous ancestry, 59%. 69 is the Canadian average. The Canadian average isn't broken down by subpopulation, so we don't have an Indigenous result nationally for that particular question. This is self-esteem. This is a low outcome. And this question's about being ready for university based on, I believe, some course outcomes. So I'm just going to quickly go to indirect data here, and this is a really key one. This is one of the most, I think this question is one of our most important questions that we ask students. Percentage of students reporting 2 or more adults at school who care for them, and we know that in our schools we have a lot of adults who care for our students. We know that there are more than 2. What really matters, though, is how the students feel and what is their perception on that. And we can see in these results that it's certainly not anywhere near where we feel it should be or we'd like it to be. And so, again, this is an area that we're going to be working very hard on with our with schools, with principals to get at this one, because it's key. And similarly for school belonging. This is one that over the last couple of years, we've been concerned about this one for sure. It's just not where we want to be. It doesn't reflect our goals as a school district, that these results are so low. And having said that, when you look at the provincial results, they're not great either. So there's a lot of work to do here. So I'm going to stop there. That just gives you, again, some key updates with some of our data. There's a lot more data. Some of it hasn't been updated yet. We'll come back to that, and you can always have a look whenever you'd like, because it's all on our website. And certainly, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Paul. So with that, let's ask if there are any questions from trustees on that data. And just speak up if you have a question.
Yeah, I'll go ahead if you don't mind, Rick.
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you, Paul. It's always really interesting to walk through data with you. I have a lot of thoughts that I've written down questions that I think I'll bring up at a later date. But I just wanted to thank you for highlighting the student success website. I don't know if you've shared that one with us before. Perhaps you have, but I will send it to Cynthia as well, who's not here today, because I know she would have an interest in looking at that too. And that website only gives data per district. Do we have access to the data that's published there, kind of broken down for our school district by geographical region, like by community?
Yeah, no, they don't do that. On that particular site, as far as I've been able to find, I haven't been able to find school level data. The ministry used to do that, but in the last couple of years, I haven't been able to find school level data on that website. Now, it could be that I just haven't found it, but there are there's some data like demographics. I think they include school level, but for things like FSA and completion, I just haven't been able to find school level.
Okay. So I will bring questions to a future meeting. I just want to spend some time looking more closely at the data that you presented to us today. One thing that I did want to say is I think that the FSA results in particular, and perhaps other survey results, might be depressed within the 2021 and further years, like through the COVID times, because of the spotty attendance. You know, I have a child who's in grade 4 now, and I know that he was not present. So he participated in the FSA, but wasn't present for every day. So the scores could be depressed as a result of students, you know, who are you know, a participant in the survey, but they just might not have answered some of the questions because they weren't at school on the day that those things were addressed. So just something to note. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that comment, Celeste. You know, we did discuss that and acknowledge that the last couple of years have been difficult for sure. I think, you know, what we come back to though is the fact that we have a number of data sets that appear to be below the provincial average, and the whole province has experienced a difficult couple of years. And so, you know, with that being equal, it's still of concern to us, but your points are very well taken. There's no doubt that that's had an impact on how kids and all, you know, everyone is feeling you know, over these last two years. It has been challenging. So we just want to make sure that we, you know, one of the things that's really important to us as a district, and you all know this, is that, you know, while we do have some positive data, it's really important to us to dig deeper and uncover what's not working and work to address it. And so that's why we have so much data on our website. Probably, you know, you'd find more on our website than in most districts, and it might feel overwhelming, but I think it's super important. And you know, it's really important that when we find data that's concerning, that we do something about it. And so I appreciate the engagement on this. I think it's a critically important part of our work, and I do appreciate the board's engagement. Thank you for that.
Thanks. Any other questions from trustees? My comment, with your closing remarks, Paul, my comment is unnecessary. I was just going to say that it's always upsetting to see data lower than we want. And I always find it a comfort working with our staff that they are not avoiding hard truths about our data and are constantly digging for our weakness and our vulnerabilities and strategizing to make those improvements, just as you described so well. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for that report. We can move down the agenda now. So that was item 8B, C, and framework for enhancing student learning. And that takes us to the Whistler Secondary dry grad approval. And Chris is on this one.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you very much, Paul. Really appreciated the thoroughness with which you went through that. And Celeste, to your point, that website on the ministry, that student success website, has been revamped. It has much more information that it used to have before. We used to go to it for cursory information, but we know the ministry is actually actively working to provide more and more data for folks. So really appreciate those efforts, and it's a fantastic site. So thank you. Now I have the pleasure of moving on from that to just sharing information. I really just wanted to give a big thank you and shout out to Robin and the rest of the grad committee and the parents engaged who were tireless in trying to find an alternate location for grad where the vaccine mandate was not required, so all kids could participate to ensure a full inclusive activity, and they have done so. So thank you to I think it's the Whistler, I'm gonna get this right, Robin, jump in, the Sliding Center, to give them full credit. Thank you, Whistler Sliding Center. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the top start at the Sliding Center.
Right. So board, you had already given that conditional approval pending a site that didn't require the mandate, and they've pulled through. So no need for a motion, you've already approved, but I wanted to do that public acknowledgement and thank you to WSS grad committee. I'm going to sneak in HSS as well. Thank you, Aaron, for the reminder, because another team of dedicated parents and staff are also working really hard to find that alternate location. They are hopeful to do so, but in the event that they don't, and the vaccination requirement is lifted by June, I wanted to assure them, but of course needed your support in doing so, that if they're one of their initial sites, so I'm going to just call them out and say to the CN Rail Museum, please accept our children. I know we've been delivered another letter, support from VCH, making that clear that the mandate does not apply to K-12 events such as grad ceremonies, but in the event that the event or the restriction is lifted and they haven't changed their mind, kids are still, have worked tirelessly for extra hours and whatnot in order to get a reduced ticket. So I'm rambling now. Long story short, if the vaccine mandate is lifted by the date and they have their alternate in mind, but they still want to go to the CN station to get those discounted tickets, just looking for the nod from the board that they would still obviously approve that site in the event of a lifting of the restrictions. Probably made that way more complex than it needed to be.
So board, let's just ask that if you understand Chris's question, are there any objections to continuing with that plan?
No, but I have a question.
Okay, go right ahead.
So are you saying, because I understand that the public health order does not apply regarding vaccination, does not apply to K-12 events. So you're saying that businesses are requiring immunization for children who are attending school events, even though it is not a requirement of the public health order?
Yes, individual businesses are able to make that determination for themselves. So most of your main hotels, the Fairmont and Whistler, Four Seasons, I think Fairmont and Whistler, the Metro hotels, many districts are having this struggle in Metro because sites that would normally welcome the business are saying no, despite the letters of assurance from Vancouver Public Health or Vancouver Coastal Health, from Fraser Health, etc., that the mandate does not apply. But individual businesses do have that right to make an alternate decision. So respectfully to those folks who may be listening, again, I'd ask on behalf of our kids that you reconsider that decision and support GRAD. We've provided lots of fantastic business for you over the years and would love to continue to do so.
And our children really need this.
Thank you, Celeste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have what you need?
I certainly do. I saw some nods from Aaron and nods from Robin. Did I miss anything? Want to defer to the principals?
Well, I would just add that we are going to go ahead with the parade as a school event.
Thank
so
you.
we've kind of separated those two in the event that the mandate doesn't get dropped. So that's gonna be an everybody celebration. And then we're gonna work with the group to make sure that they understand that if we go through and do all of our fundraising, we're going to do our fundraising in a way that would be acceptable for a sanctioned dry grad, so that in the event that the exemption is dropped, or that the passport mandate is dropped, sorry, that we'll be able to use the venue. The issue is the kids have volunteered there already and they've accrued these hours, so it's difficult for them to pull out. It's more complicated than it needs to be right now.
Thanks, Aaron.
Rick, sorry, may I just one more time?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I totally understand, because the mandate being dropped, when the mandate doesn't actually say that needs to happen in the first place, the mandate being dropped might not have any impact. If the business is imposing a policy and the mandate doesn't say that the business needs to do that, the mandate being dropped, the business could very well keep the policy in place if they're allowed to do it today.
Yes, sorry if I may. My understanding is the rationale for businesses to maintain, to extend the current mandate to all, including K-12, is because they're going by the blanket provincial order. So if the blanket provincial order is dropped, they will also drop their requirement, which may happen imminently. We'll have to wait and see.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Chris, if you're satisfied and your staff has what they need, then we'll move on. And I just realized that sitting in front of me, suddenly I have the financial committee agenda, not the public meeting agenda. So give me one moment while I go back and load my agenda. Okay, I'm there. So that was WSS dry grad approval. The next items under information are media attachments. They're media report and field trips. I'll just pause very briefly to see whether there are any questions on those items from trustees. Okay, and items for discussion, we don't have any. Policy motions, we don't have any. And that takes us to action items: Whistler Secondary calendar, bus schedule change. Paul Lorette and Ian Curry.
Okay, thanks, Rick. So as the board knows, from time to time, we do have mid-year changes to a school calendar. And if it's a substantive change, then it requires a motion. And this is one of those situations. And so what's happened is some changes needed to be made to the Whistler Secondary Bell schedule that involved the start time of the day. If it's sort of, a change of break time or change of lunch time, we don't need to come to the board, but because it involves the start time in the morning, we felt that this needed to come for approval. As for the specific reasons for the change, I'm going to hand that over to, I'm not sure if Robin or Ian is going to speak to it, but it has to do with busing. So I'll let you know about this specific situation.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Robin, if that's okay, or did you want to go?
Absolutely, it's all yours.
Okay, yeah, so as I think the board's aware, there was, long story short, we had to make some changes to our transportation system due to COVID. So this, rather than do the whole story here, it identified some areas, some neighborhoods in Whistler where they did not qualify for courtesy ridership. So we reduced courtesy ridership in those neighborhoods. And then when we were looking at our busing this year, it came clear to us that we could accommodate some courtesy riders in a specific neighborhood in Whistler where the bus service had stopped by getting them on an empty bus that was returning to what we'll call the Whistler Depot in the mornings. And it meant that that bus was passing this particular neighborhood at Spruce Grove at a time that would get the students if it was to pull into the neighborhood to pick them up, all the students would be late for school every day. It would be late by about 5 minutes every day if we were to do that. So we want to accommodate as many of these families and as many of the courtesy riders as we can. So we looked at a way that we could swing the bus into this neighborhood if we could adjust the start time at Whistler Secondary by, I think it's 5 minutes, Robin, 5 or 10 minutes. I think we've adjusted it. And that enables that empty bus returning to the depot to swing in and pick up about 12 kids. And so with working with Robin and Paul, we were able to do this. And so we're just bringing this forward today as an official notification that there was a calendar change, a change to the start times at Whistler Secondary. And Robin, if you have anything further, please jump in.
No, I think you covered it. Thanks very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, let's just see if there's any questions from trustees, and then we can move ahead with this recommended motion. Any questions?
I'm just really glad to see that you're making such good use of our resources, and I'd be happy to make the recommendation
Terrific, go right ahead.
that the Board of Education approve the amended calendar for the Whistler Secondary School as presented.
Perfect, and seconder, I see
second
Ian
that.
waving his hands. Thank you, Ian. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, are there any objections to passing the motion? All right, motion's carried. Thanks very much, Whistler, for all your flexibility in making this work for those dozen kids. That's great.
Thanks very much.
And that takes us down to board authority authorized courses. Chris and Tammy Jazik.
All right, thank you very much. Now I'm going to try and be brief because the real stars of the show are Tammy Jazik and Keenan Way, HSS department heads and counselors who really worked hard on these courses. So for those of you that were around a few years ago when we went through our initial revamp of all BEA courses to align with the revised curriculum, the core competencies, curricular competencies, and the new template, we did quite a lot of these. So some of us are old pros at this. So Tammy and her team worked really hard to fulfill the mandate, the necessary steps to get another couple courses approved. So in your package are those templates. And if they are approved, well, I'll put them in the non-draft form and get those signatures out electronically done. But what these two sets of courses represent are a real creative approach to really infusing opportunities for students with the farm grant that was provided. So if the board recalls, an amazing grant was provided, HSS, to have a school farm. And these specific courses would really allow that focused opportunity to really apply learning in a real hands-on, experiential, personalized way. So in order to do that, we do need your approval on these two courses, because while there are some similarities to some existing courses, not to the extent that they would cover a flavor of that existing course. So these are new ones. One is from the leadership umbrella under agricultural leadership, and the other is more specific to the actual grant, and that's farm studies. So these templates are meant as access points. No longer are educators required to submit an 80-page thesis on the course. It's more of a framework and a commitment to the revised curriculum, and providing lots of opportunities for individualization and flexibility over time. So that's why they're where they're at. I hope folks had a chance to maybe take a look, because I know that Tammy is super excited to answer any questions that you may have, either about these courses or even the farm that's coming. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to questions for Tammy.
Yes, board trustees, any questions? Okay, I have one. Where exactly is the farm going to be located?
It's going to be just at the edge of the football field, just be right beside Squamish Elementary. You know where their garden is existing right now?
Right.
Ian gave us the okay that was the perfect place to put it. So we're going to go for 12,000 square feet.
Nice.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Are there any partnerships with community groups involved in this, or is that likely in the future? It seems like it would be sort of ripe for partnerships with some community agencies that are concerned with, I don't know, food supply and that sort of thing.
Great question. We wouldn't be where we are today without Squamish Can.
Nice.
So Squamish Can is our #1 partnership, and
Yeah.
they've taken a lot of head, and they have a lot of experience. They've already done a lot with Mamquam Elementary and Valley Cliff. And so this is going to be an innovative farm. This hasn't totally existed in BC yet. There are some examples, but Farm to School BC is leading the way with us on mentoring and helping us set it up to be an innovation and to lead by examples for other schools within the province.
Nice. Thank you.
Exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And by the way, I know that creating these new courses and then developing these community partnerships involves an awful lot of work away from the classroom. So thank you very much for your work to make this happen. And if you're working with other staff members, as I suspect you might be, then please pass on our thanks.
Absolutely will. Thank you.
Okay.
Tammy, do you want to mention just really quickly, just also community involvement with Squamish Nation? I just texted you that too, but that's been
Nice.
a part of your work that you've been doing.
Yeah, so we have a steering committee, and that was looking at the key stakeholders that would be involved with the farm. So one of our #1 key stakeholder is the Squamish Nation. So with that, we are holding a blessing of the land on March 2nd. So that'll be an invitation coming out to everybody, and there's specific protocols that we need to follow and would like to follow. So we've been working closely with the nation on that. And then as well as we'll work with the nation on just Indigenous plants, and will that go within the farm or will that go into the courtyard? And then looking at the naming of the farm. So more to come. But yes,
Thanks.
thank you, Erin, that they are one of our key stakeholders and involved in all decision-making processes.
Well, thank you for that. That's wonderful news. And that makes what was an exciting proposal even more exciting. So thanks so much.
And then maybe I'll add maybe one more, sorry.
No, you go right ahead.
The leadership, the agriculture leadership, that there is going to be working with food insecurities within Squamish. So that's going to be what the initiative around that program is, that they'll be working with the community and then looking at how we can get food out to those in need within the community. So it'll be a really special project. That's what that course is centered around.
Excellent. It's hard to imagine a plan that fits more closely with the vision we have through our education plan, Pathways to Learning. So thanks for just reinforcing that style of learning which we aspire to for our students. That's wonderful.
I'd be prepared to make the recommendation, Rick.
Oh, good. Thank
That the
you.
Board of Education approve the new BAA courses, Farm Studies and Agricultural Leadership as presented.
Thank you. Seconder for that one.
Sure.
Thank you, Ian. Any discussion on that? Any objections to carrying this motion? All right, that's carried. Thank you again, Howe Sound Secondary staff, admin, and any community members that are involved. Wonderful. Okay, at the moment, we don't have any items to be brought out of camera. And the last business is the reading of a couple of bylaws. But before we do, Chris and or Danielle, I see your names are by them. And did you want to give just a brief summary of the purpose of doing this now?
Go for it, Danielle.
Oh, for the policy one?
Sorry, just procedure for governing school board meetings bylaw first.
Yeah, the three. So when you have a bylaw, we require the board to have 3 readings. And while we know we're going to tweak a few things, thank you to the board for feeling that it was ready nonetheless to go forward for its first reading. So we'd like to do that tonight, if the board is so willing.
Thanks
I'd be happy to make that motion for you.
Yep, go right ahead.
That the Board of Education give first reading to the amended bylaw 200.2-2022, procedures for governing school board meetings.
Thank you, and we'll need a seconder for that. Thanks, Rachel. And any discussion?
No.
Anybody opposed? All right, that's carried. And there is one more, which is the amended annual budget and bylaw. Danielle, did you want to give a brief introduction to that one?
Yeah, sure. So this is our 2021-22 amended budget. And this budget includes all of the changes to our increased enrollment and our increased funding and expenses as a result of that. So this also requires 3 readings, and all 3 readings will be done with this one budget bylaw, and it's due. This is a requirement to be done by the end of this month, February. So.
Okay, is Danielle, just clarify for me, is this actually 2 motions? The first one being the waiving of the extra readings, and then the second one being the bylaw itself, or is it all one?
Yeah, I think it's 2. Yeah, one is the
okay.
recommendation to waive, and then the actual reading in of the. Sorry, it's very long for whoever's doing it. It's a very long.
Yeah, well, we know that Ian is just dying to do that one. So.
Oh, Rick, I knew you would be setting me up.
Yeah,
Okay.
or actually both of them. So off you go, Mr. Kent.
All right, well, if I'm in the wrong spot, let me know, please. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education unanimously agree to waiver the requirement that first, second, and third reading of School District 48 Sea to Sky amended annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 be given on different dates.
Thank you. Seconder for that. Thank you, Celeste. I believe I see your hand waving there. And is there any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. And then away you go, Ian.
So starting with the amended annual budget bylaw, is that?
Yep, that one.
That one. Amended annual budget bylaw, a bylaw of the Board of Education of School District 48, Sea to Sky, called the Board, to adopt the amended annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2021-22 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act, RSBC 1996C 412 as amended from time to time, called the Act. Number one, board has complied with the provisions of the Act respecting the amended annual budget adopted by this bylaw. This bylaw may be cited as School District number 48, Sea to Sky, amended annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2021-2022. Number three, the attached statement 2 showing the estimated revenue and expense for the 2021-22 fiscal year and the total budget bylaw amount of $76,868,627 for the 2021-22 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act. Number four, Statement 2, 4, and Schedules 1 to 4 are adopted to the amended annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2021-2022. Read a first time this 9th day of the February 2022. Read a second time this 9th day of February 2022. And read a third time passed and adopted this 9th day of February 2022. Hereby certified that this is the sign.
Oh, I think that was the motion.
I just have to go to the motion.
I
Okay.
think that was it.
Okay,
But unfortunately, you bumbled the amount, so you have to start over again, I'm told.
yeah, a nice try.
Okay. Thank you for that. Someone prepared to, that's a motion. Someone prepared to second it? Yeah, thank you, Celeste. Any discussion? Anybody opposed to the adoption of that bylaw? All right, that's carried. And that takes us down to questions of clarification.
There are none as of right now.
Sorry, if I may, while we wait a moment, I do want to just take this opportunity to thank Danielle and her finance team. This was their inaugural budget. It was folks in new roles and the welcome addition of Connie Ding as well to the team. Elena as our in her new role, as well as Danielle. So on behalf of senior staff that work with this amazing, intelligent, and just so collaborative group of individuals, thank you. And it looks like you survived because it was passed. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. On behalf of the board, thank you so much too. That is a significant accomplishment. It must feel good, and too bad you don't get a week off. But any questions come in while we did that?
Oh, sorry. Archie's saying the last motion was not passed.
Oh.
Missed it. Oh, the last reading.
Like this one right here.
Okay.
Oh,
We were supposed to read the last piece there.
okay. Was that part of the motion that
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
was reading?
Oh, whoops.
Blame it on me.
Sorry.
No, I think I stopped him, actually. I think he was going to keep going and I stopped him.
I would have just kept going.
Yeah. How can we fix this?
I think we just need to like finish the motion.
Okay, we'll get Ian to read the rest of the motion and vote again, just to make sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Ian, just read the part you missed.
Well, the part I missed was down here, isn't it? Not, is it not?
The moved / seconded piece where it says the Board of Education approve school district.
Okay, I got it. I'd recommend and move that the Board of Education approve school district number 48, Sea to Sky, amended annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2021, 2022 as presented.
Okay. So with that addition, we will go through the motions of having someone move that. Well, I guess Ian did. So someone seconded. Thank you, Celeste. And I will ask again, is there any discussion? And is there anyone opposed? All right, hearing none, I'm going to declare that carried.
All right.
And meanwhile, Danielle, have any questions come in?
No, nothing there.
All right, in that case, the business has been completed. And I would like to thank staff for all their work on preparing for this meeting and helping us through it. And I will declare us adjourned.
And Rick, thanks to Rick for picking up and running with chairing the meeting with no notice. You're a good sport.
Yes, thank you, Rick.
Yep, that was fun. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Good night.
All right,
guys.
good night.
Bye.
Thank you.